22 years, I opened my father's restaurant at 5 in the morning while my brother didn't send so much as a birthday card. On the day the will was read, my father left everything, the building, the business, all of it, to the son who walked out on us and never came back. I stood up in that lawyer's office and I said the cruelest thing I have ever said to another living person. 3 days later, I found out what my father had really done, and I would have given anything to take those words back. My name is Diane Kowalski, and I was 52 the year my father, Anton, finally lost his fight with his lungs. Our restaurant sat on the same corner of a small Ohio town for 41 years. Red booths, a bell over the door, the smell of dill and butter that never really left your clothes even after you showered twice. I was the one who stayed. My younger brother Richard left at 23, packed one duffel bag, and disappeared from every holiday, every birthday, every Sunday dinner for 25 years. My father never spoke his name at the table. If a customer asked, "How many kids you got, Anton?" my father would say, "One," and mean it. There was a rolling pin my grandmother brought from the old country, worn smooth, one end darker than the other from 80 years of hands. Every loaf that ever came out of that kitchen started under that rolling pin. I used it every morning. It was the closest thing our family had to a heart. I raised 2 kids in the apartment above that kitchen. I buried my husband 9 years ago and kept the ovens running the very next morning because the Saturday rush doesn't care about your grief. I thought loyalty like that gets written down somewhere. I thought it got written into a will. The reading happened 12 days after the funeral in a lawyer's office that smelled like carpet cleaner. And across the table, for the first time in 25 years, sat Richard. Gray now, thinner, wearing a suit that didn't fit him anymore. He hadn't come to the funeral. He hadn't answered when I called to tell him our father was dying. He sat there and he would not look at me. Every wrong thing I had ever believed about my brother, he confirmed just by sitting there in silence. The lawyer read it plainly. To my son Richard, I leave the property, the business known as Kowalski's, and all associated accounts. The room went silent in that specific way rooms go silent right before someone screams. And I screamed. I stood up so fast my chair went over. 22 years, I said. I gave that place 22 years. I raised my children in that stairwell. And you... I pointed at my brother, at this gray stranger. You couldn't even pick up the phone when he was dying. You don't get to walk in here and take the one thing I have left. Richard finally looked up, and what I said next, I have replayed it every night since. You were never his son, I told him. You were just a coward who ran. I hope that building rots with you in it. He didn't argue. He didn't defend himself. He just nodded slowly, like a man receiving a sentence he'd already expected. "Okay, Diane," he said. That was all. Okay. That night, I went back to the restaurant, my restaurant. I told myself I just wanted to sit in it one more time before the locks got changed. I put my key in the front door. It didn't turn. He'd already changed them, or the lawyer had. It didn't matter. I stood on that sidewalk at midnight, jiggling a key to a door I had opened every morning for 22 years, and it would not let me in. I finally used the old alley entrance that nobody ever bothered to rekey, and I sat alone in the dark dining room, in a building that was no longer mine, and I listened to my grandmother's clock still ticking on the wall. It didn't know anything had changed. It just kept counting. There was a knock on the glass. Richard. I let him in because I was too tired to fight. He set a folder on the table between us. "Before you hate me the rest of your life," he said, "I need you to see something. Then I'll go if you want." Inside were bank records, 6 years of them, monthly payments to a hospital 2 states away, the specialist center where my daughter Ellie had been treated for the long, expensive illness that our insurance had fought us on every single month. Payments, I had always been told, came from an anonymous assistance fund. Every one of them traced back to Richard. "That was you," I whispered. "For 6 years. That was you." "Dad found out about Ellie's diagnosis," Richard said. "He called me, first time in years. He said he couldn't be the one to pay, that the whole town would ask why, and it would come with pity she didn't need. But nobody was watching me. So I paid, every month." "Then why did you leave?" I said. "Why any of it? 25 years, Richard. You owe me that." He was quiet a long time. "The year before I left, Dad's bookkeeper got sick, and I took over the accounts for a few months. And I found a name on the payroll that wasn't real. Money going out every month to a person who didn't exist. I asked him about it, and Dad sat me down and told me something about our family. About a promise he'd made a long time ago, that I have carried by myself for 25 years, and that I am not going to hand to you tonight, 12 days after we buried him. He asked me to keep it and to go, because if I stayed, I'd have to look at all of you every day knowing it. He said if I left, everyone would just think I was selfish, and that was cleaner than the truth. So I left. Everyone got to decide I was the villain. That was easier for everybody, and I let them. "Tell me now," I said. "He's gone. Tell me." Richard looked at me for a long moment. "No," he said gently. "Not because you can't handle it. Because he asked me not to, and keeping that promise is the last thing I have left of my father. Some secrets aren't kept to hurt people, Diane. Some are kept to protect the person who's already gone. I'm not a saint," he went on. "Some months I hated all of you. There were nights I sat with the checkbook and thought, let them figure it out on their own, the way I had to. I almost stopped, more than once. But then I'd think about Ellie, and I couldn't punish a kid for what the adults broke. I sat there holding a coffee mug that wasn't mine anymore, in a restaurant that wasn't mine anymore. And I understood that for 25 years I had told myself one simple story. The good child stayed, the bad child ran. It let me carry my exhaustion like a medal. It let me be angry instead of just tired. And the whole time, the bad child had been standing in the dark holding up a piece of my life I didn't even know was falling. "The will," I said. "Why would he leave it all to you?" Richard almost smiled. Dad thought this would fix everything. It didn't. 2 weeks later, in that same office, Richard signed the whole thing into a family trust. My name, his name, Ellie's name, equal thirds. He wanted nothing. "I don't want a plaque," he said. "I don't want a thank you speech. I just want to come to a Sunday dinner again. If you'll have me." We reopened Kowalski's with both our names on the sign for the first time in the building's history. Richard doesn't cook, never learned. He keeps the books now, quietly, the way he's apparently kept everything for years without asking to be seen doing it. The first Sunday, Ellie drove in to meet the uncle she'd never known. She looked at him a long moment across the dining room, and then she said it, half a laugh, half a question. "So, you're the anonymous donor?" Richard shook his head. "No, I'm just your uncle." Before he left that night, Richard went to the office and came back with something in his hand. My grandmother's rolling pin, worn smooth, one end darker than the other. "Dad kept this on his desk," he said. 25 years. I think it was the only part of home he let himself keep. He put it in my hands, and he didn't explain it, and he didn't need to. It's Sunday now, as I tell you this. The bell over the door still rings. Richard is rinsing coffee mugs at the counter. Ellie is laughing at something, and I'm rolling dough under 80 years of my family's hands. For 25 years, I thought I had lost a brother. It turned out he had never really left. If someone in your family disappeared and you were sure you knew why, I'd ask you one thing before you finish judging them. Are you sure? Tell me below. I read every one.